Good afternoon, Quasar Markets Live. So happy to be joined today, as I am almost every Monday and Wednesday, although she gave me up for some tennis this week. Won't hold it against her. We have Agnieszka Wood here. Agnieszka, how are you doing today?
Really good. Good to see you. I definitely missed you guys on Monday. But yes, I had very important things to do.
Absolutely. I don't blame you. I'm going to change my background. I realized I was still on my morning background. This is my afternoon. It's a little more uplifting, a little calming
Yes,
for our
absolutely.
trading mindset moment. You know, Agnieszka, I wanted to ask you a question. I hope it's okay. And talk a little bit about something I think is important and what we try to provide here a little bit at Quasar Markets. And I know what you provide for your clients is what kind of support structure do we need as traders? What kind of,
What
because
a
it's a
good
very
question.
individualized life, right? We sit in a room surrounded by screens like you see behind me. You know,
Right.
how do we get through that?
Yes, it's such a good question, Howard. Thank you for asking this because I think that there is not enough thought that is being given to that part of trading. It's a very lonely profession, that's for sure, because you are always just you and the screens. And at the beginning, this is what you want, right? You want to just get away from all these annoying people that want something from you, your boss, your coworkers, and in general, like just me and a computer. Let me be. But then very quickly it starts to your walls kind of start to close up on you, and you realize that those social connections are very important
Absolutely.
in your life, right? This is also where you can vent sometimes when things are not going your way, but also just simply exchange ideas and exchange the journey you're going through. And with trading, it's very specific type of experience, right? Because and not many people really understand what it takes to come to the desk every day, expose yourself to pretty harsh conditions of risk, uncertainty, unpredictability, and get away from there and just go about your life. Trading is something that really influences you as a person, and you take a lot of times you take that with you to the rest of your day. So having a proper support system, first, it's absolutely a must for your overall health and wealth, yes too,
Right.
but
Both.
overall well-being, right? um, so how do you go about it? Having support network, whether it's your mentor, whether it's a community. And I'm talking about the community where you truly connect with people, not just, you're a sort of a fly on the wall watching the chat, seeing everyone making money and getting frustrated because you're not.
That just gets you more angry, right?
Right. But truly, even if it's just one person, truly have someone you can talk about things, you can ask questions, you can just kind of bounce ideas, someone who knows what trading means. Now with family, you can say, yes, but I have a very supporting family, they support, my wife supports my efforts, and that is fantastic. That is very important in your trading journey, to have your spouse or your partner supporting your efforts. However, it is up to you and it's your responsibility to make sure that you prepare your significant one to what kind of support you need and how to support you. And I'm not saying you have to exactly explain what is it that you are doing, because a lot of times they're not even interested in that. They're just support you because they love you. But there is this part where when things go south and you are hurting and they see you hurting, you are taking losses, you are emotionally derailed, you are frustrated, and all these negative emotions are coming up. You come to your dining table and then you start throwing it out there. Don't expect that they will tell you keep going, just keep going, I know you're going through hell, just keep going. Because all they want, because they love you, they will want to end your suffering. So you
Right.
might be hearing things like, why don't you just quit? Why don't you just go and get a real job? Why don't you just, like
I've lived through a
trying
lot of
to,
those over the years. Yep.
yeah. And this is not meant in a bad way. They are just trying to help you to end your suffering. So if you really want a proper support that will stimulate you and motivate you to get back, prepare them. Like, what is it that you actually want them to say in moments like this? Maybe give them like a little note and like, listen, if I ever come here and start bitching about my trading, this is what I want you to tell me. This is what
Right.
I need to hear at that moment. And that's not always the first thing that they will come up with themselves, right? Because in general, people think trading is gambling. So if you go to your friend and say, man, I lost again money and it's been a week, I've been losing, they're like, what the hell are you doing, right? And then you will have those friends who just made some lucky trade and they did double a little bit, they buy something here, they heard something there, they buy it and they made money. And then they will throw it also. Like, listen, why don't you just do what I do?
Right.
I just bought this thing and made money. I mean, I had a student that had a neighbor like that. And then his wife would use that neighbor as an example for him to
Oh,
like
wow. So that makes
say,
it, so that even amplified it even further, because
yes,
it's like,
yes,
well, Charlie's doing so well. Why aren't you trading like Charlie? Yeah, the internal pressures are already hard enough. So I think that's an
yeah,
important, deviation or definition within it, right? Is that you have to make sure your support structure is actually a good support structure. Because if they're just amplifying or an echo chamber, like some of these trading groups can be, and I think that's important
right,
to point out. While it is great to have a group of like-minded individuals that you're chatting around about, hey, we love stock XYZ and, we're believers in it. Keep in mind that that's a very much an echo chamber, right? More so than really a support mechanism.
right, right. And the true support that I think traders need the most is that emotional side of trading.
Right.
And, it's not always easy to open yourself up to total strangers and tell them, actually, I'm really ashamed of what I'm doing. And a lot of times you will just keep kind of pushing it down within yourself and like, just keep going, just you're going to make it, you're going to motivate yourself. But those emotions are they are pushed away, they're suppressed, and they are still there. So talking it out with someone, uh, and sometimes, like, okay, if you don't have anyone, create a support system for yourself, have a journal, write it out, have
Right.
your routines that will support you. But there is nothing better, and I can tell you from experience what I also see from my students within my group, like they are motivating each other, they are supporting each other, they
Absolutely.
will build each other up, they learn from each other. Like, hey, and I'm doing it this way. Like, oh, that's a great idea. I use this idea with my journaling, and now I'm doing that. And it's just fantastic to see how you can build each other up instead of being
Absolutely.
that, on the island, right? And you
Yep.
guys provide a lot of support as well from your
Sure. And
channel, right?
we try to break through that noise, and, and absolutely we try to support each other here. In the groups that we, and that's a big part of Quasar Markets. Hey, Zora, I see you're saying hello to us and saying emotion is the thing to control for sure. Without a doubt, that's the case. It's hard to do, but having the right group, the right information, helps so much. And having different groups, I think sometimes like a combination of having the friends within a trading group. I was at Prosper
Right.
Trading for a long time. We were support for each other in times of good and bad or whatever. They are being the cheerleaders like you're talking about, but then also having my friends that weren't part of that group from the restaurant world, that when I did say it would say, well, they keep you in check by sort of keeping your ego in check. Some of your older friends are much better at
Yeah.
that, right? So it's good to have some of that, from different areas. And I do think having someone like yourself, I know I'm always bouncing stuff off Big Beat, off you, off the other
Yeah.
educators. I'm very lucky. I have, a support group of experts that, is unrivaled, and have so much that I can, get from you guys, where we talk through the noise. We said it this morning, we've gone through the, sort of the ebb and flow in the last couple of weeks, right? Of the highs and lows that the market sees. and having some, a pragmatic approach, and looking at it from, the outside sometimes helps, to have those friends that are just like you said, I have my 3 or 4 high school friends that I know I can call, and,
Yeah.
and we'll be chatting. And if I say something like that, they're just going to make fun of me, but it's what I need sometimes, is
Yeah.
that, type of,
Yeah. Sometimes we need to get real, right? And sometimes we need someone who will actually call it what it is and will tell you sort of the truth, right? Will hold up the mirror in front of you and say, that's, it's all great, but how about this, right? Like,
yeah.
what I hear you saying is actually, sorry to say, but you're lying to yourself, simply.
Yeah, no, that's it, right? Or they'll question, well, they'll say, well, why did you make that trade?
Right.
If I'm
Right.
complaining about trade X, again, XYZ, a specific one, well, why'd you make it? And it makes me think, because they're not going to accept a crappy answer. Big beat in yourself. You guys are too smart. You're not going to buy, whatever. If I say, well, the PE looked great, and you're like, really? It's at 78 right now. That's not a good
Right.
PE. Come
Right.
on. So
Yeah.
it is good for that. I
And I
think.
see one comment here about emotions, which
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit more,
Absolutely. And
if
that's from
that's
my
okay.
good friend Zora from back in the Prosper trading days. A great trader. She's does some day trading stuff, and does it out of a van.
Oh my
That
goodness.
she
Is it the
travels the West Coast.
Ovan? Is this
Yep,
the
she travels the West
Ovan?
Coast. She's
Wow, that's awesome.
semi-retired, so to speak, and does
That's
trading from
fantastic.
wherever she can in the world, which is what the great part of this market, right? Is that you can do it anywhere you have an internet connection.
As long as you have the stable internet connection, very
Yep,
important.
absolutely. You got to have that.
So, Zara, emotions, you actually touched here a really important point. Emotions is the thing to control. And I am a huge advocate of not controlling the emotions. I teach that you cannot control emotions. Emotions is something that comes up, it's the energy in motion, and energy in general cannot be controlled. The problem with trying to control emotions, what most people are doing is trying to suppress it because they cannot control it. One way that they are trying to do it is by suppressing it and thinking, okay, that's better because now if I don't feel it, then it's going to go away. The problem with energy is it doesn't. The energy never disappears. So if you suppress it, you build it up, and then eventually it blows in your face. And this is what happens a lot with traders, that they suppress their emotions and that they are able to sustain their performance for some time. And then one day, one trade, they go on tilt and they're like, I don't know what came over me. I have no idea. Yes, well, you build up your emotions, you kept suppressing it, and now it just blew in your face. So what you can control, on the other hand, are the triggers that are causing you to feel emotions, because those triggers are the root cause of those emotions. So when you get triggered by the market, whether it's a stock that, or the price that's moving. I keep saying stocks because I trade stocks, but it can be anything. If you see the price moving, or someone maybe in a chat said, "Oh, I'm jumping in, and I just made so much money on this trade," and you're like, "Oh, I need to make money too," and then you jump in, you just get triggered. And a lot of times those are mental triggers from inside, from your own head, from your own
Right.
experiences, fear, greed, all kinds of things that are popping up and they trigger you. And depending on that trigger, like how well do you control those triggers, how well do you manage them, you can stop the domino effect that will cause you a certain emotion and reaction to it. So I like to go step back and say, learn to control your triggers so that you can regulate your emotions, because emotions can be regulated, but they cannot be controlled. That's something that I strongly believe. I have experienced that myself, and I have been practicing it for a long time. And this is what I also teach the traders I work with. And I can tell you it works much better than trying to control emotions. And in fact, I recommend and that's what I teach, is to learn how to use your emotions to stay aligned with yourself, stay aligned with the market, and to use them as a sort of a signal for you to know whether you are making the right decision or whether you should wait, and how to use those emotions, this energy that you have, to navigate the market. So that's what I want to say about controlling emotions.
Right. No, that's a perfect, information that we want to share with people, because that is it. So many people think that you need to control it. Where you need to do is learn how to manage what it is that's incoming, and then have the proper
Right.
response to it. Right. As you often talk
Right.
about, don't react, respond after that reaction comes through and is processed.
Right.
So I think it
And
falls into that sort of same category.
absolutely. And I had this conversation actually very recently with my students, because every time when I have, when I teach, at the end of the whole process, the transformation process, a lot of them say, you know what, this actually changed my life and changed who I am. I just became this much more calmer, much more free and happy person. And that influenced my trading.
Right.
And that has a lot to do with emotions and how do you experience life? How do you experience yourself? How do you limit yourself? Because, everyone I think heard who is in the market, how you live, that's how you trade. So there
Yeah.
is just no way to trade. Like if you're struggling right now, you can try to change your behavior in trading, but if you don't change anything in your life and who you are as a person, for example, build your integrity,
Right.
nothing is going to change long term in trading without having the integrity as a person, not just as a trader. Having the integrity as a human being is key for you to, for example, follow your plan.
Right.
Because if you say to yourself in the morning, I'm going to follow my plan, but then you don't keep the word to yourself,
Yeah,
you
I
don't
was going
have
to
the
say honesty. You
integrity.
have to be honest with yourself. Is
Yeah.
sort of another way to term it. That
Yeah.
integrity would be. You got to
Yeah.
be honest with yourself. Are you going to follow through on the plans or not? Or are you? There's so many that we lie to ourselves and say we are following our trading
Yeah.
plan, but no, you're not. No, you're not. You didn't
Yeah.
follow it. That's why you exited at the wrong time. And
Yeah.
when you look, those people that look back and say, "Well, my setup was great, but I didn't execute." You weren't honest with yourself. You didn't have that integrity to your program, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, that this is not because people are bad or they want to lie to themselves. It is because they have those mechanisms in their subconscious. And subconscious doesn't choose whether you're a trader, your father, your husband, or whether you are, just a human being. It's across the board. So if you have
Right.
those mechanisms on the subconscious level, those limiting beliefs, and the way that you are doing things in your life, this is just gonna bleed to your trading, and this is how you're going to be doing things in your trading. That's why the mindset transformation is not just, oh, my mindset is divided, this part is trading and this part is my life. No, you're making a mindset transformation to change the way you think, you perceive things, how you behave as a person, who you are, and that is influencing how you trade, what kind of decision you make, and how you behave in trading, so that you
Right.
are not a slave, like, oh, I cannot get away from here, I have to be here, I have to trade, and like, no, I need to make money. And because that kind of behavior is all steered by fear. And if you are fearful, if you live in scarcity in general in your life, if you are constantly limited by your beliefs, that's what shows in trading.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't trade scared, and that's what you're doing at
No.
that point. And
Yeah.
exactly what you just hit on, the fear factor that comes in. It's just that scared or nervous money is money that just flows into somebody else's pockets, as Steve points
Yeah.
out all the time.
Yeah.
He loves nervous money in the markets, like there is a lot right now, because it flows into his pockets, so to speak. The markets
Right.
don't have emotions. And I think the other part that I would say is, going back to the emotions thing, the markets don't have emotions, so you really can't either. Is part of it. It has to be based on whether you want to call it psychology, because to me, charting is really just psychology. It's just a way we look
Right.
at the psychology of price action in the market and what has happened in the past, or whether you think it's more science or, whatever it might be. But that you have to keep that, the integrity to that plan, and you have to have the right idea when you do it, and then follow through with it to make that all work. And if not any of those components fall down, you won't be a successful trader.
Right. And I think that the market doesn't have emotions, true, because it's a thing, right?
Yep.
It's just numbers, and it's a system. Now, we as human beings, I don't believe that we can tell ourselves we cannot have emotions, because this is part of our human experience.
Absolutely.
We have emotions. But what we can do, and what we definitely have the control over, is we don't have to respond to or react to those emotions.
How's this? We have emotions, but we can't be emotional about the market. Like, in other
That's
words,
much, yes, absolutely. You can actually say, yes, I do feel something, but I don't have to act out of that
right.
emotion.
I think that's the difference. I think that is the big
Yeah.
part is sort of what I'm trying to say about the market isn't emotional, so you
Yeah.
can't be emotional. You have
Yes,
emotions, but you can't let your emotions dictate your trading. You
absolutely.
can't be emotional at it. You have to be, a calm trader. That you could, like I
Right.
say, we talk about the same things, whether it be, athletes that do well in trading because they tend to have that mindset of the right way to win. Whether it be
Right.
poker players that I think, because I think they're able to handle, emotion, keep their emotions in check, their pulses down when things sort of hit the fan, because that's when, everybody is a great trader when everything is moving to the upside. It's when you have the up and downs and the topsy-turvy that we see right now,
Yeah.
that you
Yeah,
find
and
out.
even then, when things are moving to the upside, you see that many times the overconfidence will take over, and then the moment that is going your way, and you find it like, oh, this is easy, and you let your emotion dictate your next action, because now you feel that, oh, I can conquer the world, and now you make a mistake, you lose the focus. So you really have to compartmentalize those things, like you say. Yes, I am trading and I am going to be experiencing emotions. I should not be trying to suppress them. I should not be saying like, I cannot feel them. I cannot feel them, but I feel them, but I cannot feel them. It's like, this is not working. Accept that you feel them. Acknowledge that you feel them. Be aware of it, and work on developing your self-awareness to the point, and also the mindset skills, that you can actually regulate them as they are, so that they do not disturb your thinking process, that it will not take over your reptilian brain and you start acting out of fear, and just reacting to whatever you see in front of you.
Without a doubt. I want to thank you so much for coming on and talking us through these turbulent times like you do every week. I know we have to get you out of here on time today. So what are the last words you have for us today?
I think building your awareness about what is happening on the inside more than what is happening on the outside, you will benefit from that long term, because the more you know yourself, the better you will be able to position yourself wherever you are, whether it's in the market conditions, whether it's in, in relation to other people, wherever you are in life. When you are more self-aware, what is happening on the inside? What is it that you feel? Am I suppressing my emotions? Am I feeling something and now I just don't know what to do with it? This will give you much more food for thought and food for action. Like, okay, I can recognize my emotions now. I just don't know what to do with it. I know I'm getting triggered. I just need to learn how to master those triggers. And that's how you can start really working intentionally on a certain area that will help you move forward.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Agnieszka. Again, you can find her on Twitter at ahead, AHEAD _ and then coach. And again, you can find her at aheadcoach.com. Please go and check out her free tools, her free newsletter. Believe me, they've helped me a lot in my trading, and she's great to share her time with us. Thanks so much, Agnieszka. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much, Howard. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Okay, everybody, I am going to take us through what's going on the midday here. And we do have the disciple of trend himself, Charlie Moon's going to be coming in here in a few minutes on a weekly spot that we're going to start doing. Charlie is the man when it comes to technical analysis, AI trading, momentum trading, and more. So happy to have him, my good friend. He'll be in soon here. Bitcoin has broken back below 87,000 here, so we're back at 86,932 right now. Trading on the daily chart right between the 200-day MA and the 50 MA, both of them closing in on each other, and we can see it's in a little bit of a ascending triangle. So we'll see what we can get out of this today. I do think we're going to be a little bit range locked in here today. Don't see much that's going to explode us one way or the other. As we look across the stock market, we do see the Qs are now down at lows of the day, down about 1.43%. SPY is down about 81 basis points to the downside also here. So most of them towards the lows of the day. We've just been sort of melting off. Nothing dramatic on the news front so far. It's been basically the same. You know, the tariff talk has everybody still on edge, but that hasn't changed throughout the day. Market, to my opinion, a little bit oversold so far. So you could find some good value. We know I was looking at 115 here as an area for NVIDIA. It dropped right through it. So I'm still in a wait and see here on NVIDIA personally. As it pulls up here, it dropped through that 115 pretty significantly, pretty quickly here today. So I am still in a wait and see. We do on the short-term minute chart here look like we are starting to maybe see a little bit of a recovery here. But again, it dropped through the key zone I was looking at here. To me, let's see, we'll pull it up here. Yeah, see, my problem is, you know, we've had 2 attempts here in mid-September and in mid-February with this support. It broke below it and then did move back to the upside. But more times than not, when it's broken through this support level, like here, down, here, down, you know, this is the one, you know, one of the cases where it went to the upside. Even after retesting it, but not really. Most of them have been pretty big moves to the downside here. So I'm going to be in a wait and see now. Now I start targeting something closer, quite frankly, to the 107, 108 area as a spot that maybe I look into it. So it did drop in further and quicker than I wanted to see here. So, but again, on a 5.5% pullback, nothing today makes me think NVIDIA is worth 5% less than it was yesterday. I do like trying to pick it up in this zone. So we'll keep an eye on it, but I am in a little bit of more of a wait and see if we continue to melt off throughout the day, or do we start to get a midday turnaround. That will make my judgment whether or not to enter it. Apple, which had been up earlier, is now down. All 7 of the Mag 7 down. Tesla is back down at 274. So the 2 big gainers yesterday are the 2 big losers so far today. Not all that surprising. Let me just readjust some of my screens here. And again, Tesla back at 274.29. It starts to get here into the spot where I want to see if it tests. Why is that not changing here? I might be having some internet problems here. I do apologize if that is the case. There we go. Looks like everything's back to working here. Okay. So let's take a look here at what were some early morning risers. Are they still moving up? Not really here. DLTR, one of the big winners so far today, up 4.75%. Again, the big news there is that they are spinning off or selling off Family Dollar, selling it for $1 billion, which sounds great, except they paid $9 billion to get it. Another one that's holding up so far is CarMax, up about 2.44% here. So again, used car sales seem to be in the a good area. Carvana was up earlier also. Other ones we were looking at this morning, UNF, which had been hurt a lot yesterday. UniFirst Corporation, they were looking at being bought out by Cintas. That didn't happen, so it had the market down tremendously. See what else is going on here. Ticks negative, advanced declines negative about 1425 here. Dow Jones is flat. All the other indices are down. If you were listening to us this morning, I did advise buying the VIX. I advised buying April calls when it was at $17. It's now up a full dollar from that range. If you got in that, you got to love that move here. I'd be still looking for a spike up towards the 2022 area before I'd get out of those. But again, I did tell you when you buy that, you do sell them on any spike to the upside. So that is what I'm looking at there. Okay, everybody, I am having some streaming trouble here. I am having some Spectrum's been having some down detector problems all morning here. So I am going to sign off for now. We will be back on as soon as I can get this straightened out a little bit more. Thank you for joining us here at Quasar Markets.